This is going to be a big letdown after that. Yeah. Welcome. I'm going to fiddle a little bit here. And I just realized that I have to wear my glasses to see this, and I have to do this to see you. So if you see me like bobbing around like a chicken, I'm doing my best. And also I have to remember to stay close to this. Okay. Is that okay if I move that forward?
Yeah, go for it.
Welcome to Humans in the Loop. It's really great to be here. Thanks for having us. I've been to this event a handful of times and always had a great time. It was my first time as a speaker. Oh, I really got to aim at the mic. Okay. And if you can't hear us, somebody give me the signal. First time podium for me. This is we're talking about hiring software engineers in this AI era that we're all living in. So welcome.
Hi, I'm Nick Krantz. As aforementioned, I'm a senior software engineer at Livefront. Pete and I both are on the front end web, so that is our specialty. You might learn something from us in that regard. Maybe not today in this talk, because we're going to talk more about hiring than the web.
Oops, sorry.
No worries. And Livefront has been mentioned a couple times today. We're a digital product studio in the Twin Cities here. We work with large enterprise-level clients all the way down to startups, consumer-facing apps, internal applications, open source, proprietary, kind of spanning the spectrum there.
Yeah, hi, I'm Pete. Similar story to Nick, also a web, mostly front end, but rangier as well, and long-time Live Frontier. I started as a client actually in like 2009. I was at a startup. I was the UI guy, and we hired Livefront. And since that moment, I have pretty much always been either working with or for Livefront for the last 16 years or something like that. And it's been a great pleasure, and I've learned, basically anything I do that's good is probably because of their organization, Outside of engineering, Nick and I are also often involved in hiring. Either at Livefront, we do a fair amount of technical screening, technical kind of interviewing, and then also in clients sometimes we're asked to get involved with hiring. So we've been talking about hiring a lot, it's gotten especially interesting in the last couple of years, and a lot of what we've been talking about with each other over the last couple of years, we wanted to just try and share in a presentation to all of you guys.
And to start, we wanted to level set. We wanted to level set. AI, machine learning, data science, we love you folks. That's definitely not our expertise, so we're probably not going to touch too much on specifics in those. We're going to focus more on what I'll summarize as just general software engineering. As aforementioned, we build a lot of client-facing, consumer-facing applications, so we're thinking about front end and the full stack in that regard.
So we want to start with, a quick audience poll. We're really curious, just like in this wide-ranging group of people, how people feel about AI as part of their software story. So you're going to have three choices. We're going to raise hands. We talked about, if you guys already got up, otherwise we're going to make you do jumping jacks to vote, but you guys are off the hook. You have three choices. The skeptic is going to be the people that are most reserved about this, most unlikely to use it. I think anyone involved in the free DOS mailing list probably was going to fit into that. Explorers in the middle, right? Okay, so people that are interested, perhaps you're starting to integrate it into your process, and then we're going to go a third one that's all the way out there, full-blown cyborg. You're more machine than human, and right now fleets of agents are scouring your tax returns. Okay, so those are your three choices. Okay, everyone's going to raise their hand for whatever they feel comfortable with, and if you don't want to raise your hand, no worries. Okay, so let's get all the skeptics to raise your hand. Couple. Okay. Not surprised. Not a ton of skeptics come to like Google DevFest on a Saturday, but you're appreciated. We want your perspective. Okay. Explorers, middle of the range. Oh, that bell curve, baby. Everybody's in that bell curve. Okay. And then cyborgs. Yeah. Okay. Awesome. Okay. Thank you. That's great. Okay. And sorry for you guys that couldn't see that. Most people fit in the middle, a few skeptics, and then probably triple that in that far right cyborg range. Okay, people who already know me know that I use a lot of bad metaphors. It's just how I am. But I was told by the Livefront legal team that I had to put this warning up before I dive into this particular bad metaphor. You've been warned. This is an actual picture of me from 2023. I was so innocent. and this is sort of representing a little bit of like before I'd really been integrating much AI in my personal engineering experience, okay? So in 2023, I started a gig, a consulting gig at a big pharmaceutical company. It was purported to be perfectly right in my wheelhouse. Heavy on the front end, a little rangy, Angular, which is something, hey Google, by the way, forgot about that. Thank you, Google. Anybody work on Angular here, by the way? No? Okay, yeah, seriously? Thank you. So great, okay, awesome. This is a great gig for me. It's gonna be awesome. But unfortunately, it turns out what they actually needed was someone with about like 50% of their experience should be niche backend stuff that I don't know. Okay, so I show up thinking, okay, Angular front end, and it's actually .NET, C#, and a lot of SQL. These are tools that I know what they are, and SQL is something that I have had to use when I really, really broke a Ruby on Rails app. I'm not good at this stuff, okay? Also, huge legacy code base, tons of tech debt, and a kind of ambitious roadmap as well. So I'm just suddenly in the thick of it. This new land was confusing and foreign to me. I didn't know what to make of it. Wherever I looked, there were things that I did not feel comfort level with. It was async and schemas and joins, oh my, all things I didn't really know much about. So I had a lot to learn fast. So as desperate as I was super delighted to meet some new friends along the way. First, I met the cowardly chatbot. So if you can picture that paradigm of your ChatGPT interface, it was so helpful for me to go back and forth with that little chatbot and ask about concepts, share code snippets, ask why somebody did this. Hey, can you help me structure this query? I don't know, should this be a subselect? What's a subselect? I don't know, we'll find out. It was very helpful, but this chatbot was too timid to code by itself. Then I met the Scare Copilot. And this was another level of integration in my IDE, right where I code. And it was much easier to go back and forth with this similar. So this is a steady progression, right? I'm going from a chatbot to like a chatbot that lives in my IDE, basically. I'm doing a lot of copy pasting back and forth still, but the context of what I'm working in is right there, and it's much easier to go back and forth, much more fluid experience. And in this world, I'm starting to like get more active coding done with the tool. And lastly, I met the Tin Agent. And the Tin Agent is above all brave. And the Tin Agent is willing to do lots of stuff and take on big chunks of work. And also, screw up things with that big old axe too, right? But this is a whole new level. And for me, it was still in my context of being poor little Dorothy trying to make sense of this foreign land, a huge win for me. So, together, all of us, we learned the frameworks. We learned the giant code bases. We learned the patterns. Before long, we were writing bugs together. We were roughing in tests. We were, by the end of this path together, I don't know, we got to meet the wizard or something? I don't know. But by the end, I was feeling comfortable having several CLI-based chat agents running at a time, working on a variety of different tasks for me at the same time. And knowing how that all worked and knowing what the limitations were felt a lot more intuitive to me. So that's why, also, sorry, that's done with. Thank you for bearing with me on that. So for me, though, it wasn't about whether the AI was going to be useful, because I had an instant win for me. And part of that is my desperation, right? I was in a situation where I was just in over my skis. So it wasn't about whether it would be useful, it was about how and when it would be worth trying. And so the other thing you run into a lot when learning about this is that it felt like there was kind of this bell curve of like the likelihood of what the AI is going to spit out. It's going to fit into this sort of middling code quality most of the time. It won't be consistent, obviously, because it's an LLM and they change their mind all the time. But it's never going to be where we like to be as Livefront. We really believe in our craft, and it's how we navigate the world. And so, there's a big gap, right, between what the sort of average LLM output is and what we expect to ship and what we would put our names on.
And we didn't think that we could safely talk about AI without talking about the risks associated with it. I think we all maybe know engineers or are that engineer that is super gung-ho about AI and all the things it can do, and will just spin up a React app and demo it and be like, "Wazah, done." And that's just kind of not the case. This is the metaphor that I think I told Pete like 17 times, and now we used AI to generate a picture of it. I have a 2-year-old at home who loves light switches and will pull open drawers, and I feel like AI is this equivalent of giving him a front loader and being like, he could figure it out, but he'll do a lot of damage. It's definitely possible. And so in the context of that, there's a lot of things that we think about when we approach our engineering that are on one side of this slope or the other. And this is totally subjective to us. Your slope might look different based on your own skill set or your desires or your tenacity about AI. So below your slope is kind of the safe zone. Autocomplete's relatively safe, simple refactors, maybe boilerplate in unit tests. But then if you start to get more above the line, you kind of get in a danger zone. Are you going to Claude and saying, let's build an app and build an app start to finish? Are you going to support that app? Do you need to understand the code? Is Claude going to? All of those questions then arise. Are you spending more time reviewing it than you would just writing it? Those kind of questions are things that I think we ask each other every day that definitely impacts candidates that we're hiring of their skill set and how they approach AI in their own work.
So there's that line, and it has a slope, and we can argue about where that is, and it's just nothing precise here. This is all conceptual, right? And it might taper off, and it might go asymptotically up. We don't really know, but what is happening is a lot of change really fast in the software industry. And I think, and I want to say, first of all, like, that's pretty nerve-wracking, right? Like, this is is this an existential threat? And like, we're going to be like on the streets, with our cardboard, in a week, or whatever. Like, there's that tension in the air. But it's also huge opportunities, and we've already seen today like some just marvelous examples of people using AI to empower software development, and rather than to sort of replace the human aspect of it. So, but I did want to quickly address, like, why is it happening so fast to software, right? Like, what is it about the software industry that is becoming, like, normally we build tools and then we go like throw them at other places, oh yeah, we built the internet. Yeah, let's put that everywhere, right? This is a tool that, like, it's affecting us faster than any other industry as far as I can tell, although I'd love to hear of other industries that are being affected more quickly. And I think that's just interesting to think about. And it makes sense though, right? Like, LLMs being this sort of key technology that have really pushed us forward in the last 5 years are language models, right? And they're pattern matching machines. And what software is, at least the sort of practice of it, is writing a language, and it's more structured and more patterned than regular human language. So it fits that model a little better. Software also has huge available data sets to train off of, like Stack Overflow, all the open source projects that are available on the internet, is a huge advantage that our industry is so exposed in that way that other industries aren't. We also build our own tools to a degree that other industries don't. Like, if you could imagine a plumber going into a house and being like, I could really use a totally different kind of pipe today. Like, they can't do that. They're limited to what the manufacturers are selling in that moment. And changing it involves retooling factories and huge costs, right? For us, we can go into a project and be like, I've always wanted a script that would check this one thing for me. 10 minutes later, you have that script, right? So we can build up in these layers much faster than other industries. It's also, similarly, it's easier for us to fix mistakes, so we can be more experimental, right? You screwed up on that last development release, not even a real release, so you ship another one and fix it later. In addition to that, we also have all these wonderful tools we can do to add guardrails and determine correctness. We had talks earlier that we were talking about linters, compilers. These are things that, like a legal team can't just take a document and run it through a thing and know whether that document is going to work, right? We have automated test suites. We can give you pretty high confidence if you have a really good test suite that whatever they did, it's still going to work, even if you don't fully understand how it works. So, and one last caveat, obviously, and actually, the talk earlier with Sam and Adam talked about this. I really like the concept they talked about with tolerance. Tolerance for risk is the big one that I'm thinking of right now. If you're writing pacemaker firmware, if you're writing space shuttle software, you're going to use different software development practices in general, and definitely around AI. Okay, that's different than a marketing website for your uncle's construction business, which is, by the way, how I started in web.
Yeah, and to take it even a step further back in how humans and computers interact in your kind of software development lifecycle, you have an idea. You come to a solution, and then you code it, and then it runs on hardware somewhere, is my very simplistic view of software development. There's a lot of caveats in there, and there's a lot of people involved and things involved. If we go back to the 20th centuries, you have punch cards. In the 50s, you were manually doing things. You were very low level, close to the machine. In the 60s and 70s, you started to get a little bit higher, C, assembly. A little more humanness came into it, like a little more English in the language, if you will, a little more readability. Jumping ahead to the 2000s, you get a little higher level. You come to having code run on further from the machine. Pete and I, for instance, web engineers, we write JavaScript that runs in a browser, that runs on an OS, that runs on the hardware. So that's very much further from the machine. And then going even further, here we are in 2025, you have an idea and you have a solution, but now are you going to ChatGPT or Claude and be like, let's do it? And those kinds of things is where we see the market changing and the career changing. One thing we don't see changing, and is probably the premise of this entire talk, is there's always a human involved. Your human comes up with the idea, you come up with some sort of solution along with the tool maybe, but you are still there along with the tool itself. If we get to a point where your coding is just coming up with a product and selling it and making money, that just doesn't really make sense to me. Oh, totally forgot this was there. If you're using agentic coding and you have things running in parallel, that's a whole different ballgame too. All right.
Yeah, also completely exhausting. I don't know if you guys have tried that. Man, that tires me out. Okay, so a little bit of our quadrant thunder was stolen by those jerks, Adam and Sam. And they missed my joke about, like, if you put a quadrant diagram in a spreadsheet, like, or in a slideshow, then you get to, like, bump your consulting rate like double. Gartner taught me that, if nothing else, from the corporate world. You know what I'm talking about. And people pay so much to get on that chart. It is not accurate. So this is yet another chart, but I'll quickly lay it out. So what we're going to have going up the left side is how much we think humans will have an impact on the engineering process, okay? So like, think about it as you're picking someone, like how much is this person going to make a difference on a specific sort of skill and competency? What we're gonna be doing is laying out skills, competencies in this grid in a post-AI world, okay? So this might look a little different. I'm not gonna show you like a previous version, but this version is how we were imagining the change, sort of the delta happening. Like, will humans have more impact in this particular competency that's part of the software development process or less? And then the other axis is going to be the importance. So how much does the new AI world change the value of specific skills, because we expect, well, we'll get into that. Okay, don't get ahead of yourself, Pete. Okay, so looking at this bottom left side. So these are less important, less human, is kind of what we're thinking here. A lot of rote stuff, right? And this is a partial list, of course. Different people also will probably categorize different, edge cases differently here. But I think we can probably all agree, if you've messed around with AI coding tools, like the more simplistic, more patterned, more predictable, then the more likelihood it's just going to basically be kind of commoditized, because kind of anybody can get this for free. So it's not like you need someone who's really good at like any of these skills to do a better job, because AI is really commoditizing these skills. They're basically, you're getting a lot of them almost for free. It's just oversight is the job now. Okay, now these are skills that we think there'll probably be a little less call for them, but they're still very reliant on people. A lot of niche skills that are maybe not going to be super broadly applicable, but they're still going to be around. But you wouldn't expect them to like live in the AI training set, because you're already out of that sort of bell curve of like what people have been training on, and also like what value the marketplace is going to have for it. Now, in the bottom right here, we have these are skills we think are going to be more important, but the humans might not have as big of impact. A lot of connecting code here, a lot of this is sort of like lighter weight code, rapid prototyping. Like if you don't need to have a really good functional React app, yeah, you can spin one up really fast without too much skill. It's getting it to beyond prototype stage where you start to really feel the pain and suffering of too much AI code. So these are skills we think are going to be important. Like I think you're going to be pushing against the boundaries of architectural constraints because the volume of code that we can create is so much higher potentially that you're going to have to think higher level more quickly. So these are things that we're going to have to work on. And then this is kind of the sweet spot, right? It's always the top right quadrant where oh, that's what I only just focus on that. Why'd you tell me all this other crap? And so these are the skills we think are really high leverage in this AI climate. It's a lot of higher level skills, literally up that stack that Nick was showing. These are, you might be wearing a slightly different hat as you move up that chain. And we'll focus on those here in just a sec here. So just to take that top right corner and just focus on these a little bit. So if you kind of read through this list, again, all these things are debatable, by the way, whether one skill showed up in this bucket versus another, totally debatable. But one thing to note is that there's a lot of soft skills in here. There's a lot of skills that involve working with the team and figuring things out. There's a lot of skills that involve maybe a lot of experience, which is a little intimidating because I think there's a little bit of anxiety, especially for young people who are getting into the industry that, oh, you took away all that rote stuff. That used to be what managers just spun off to get people started. So I want to address that really quick because I think there's a little bit of anxiety around well, how do we train people up? If all the skills are high level experience required skills, how are we going to get more people? What's our long-term play here? I actually have a really positive spin on this, and I would love to talk to people afterwards because I tend to get way too optimistic about things and need to be pop my bubble. So I'm looking forward to this. But my model for how this works is that I don't see any reason why these skills that we're looking at on this screen right now are not skills that every single person at every single level in their career, every experience level can work on. Why on earth wouldn't a fresh graduate, why would they not be working on their risk analysis and QA strategy skills? Why would they not be working on their product thinking? And with the tools, there's no reason they can't create the same way a person with more experience can create with these tools. They'll still need oversight, but I think what it means is that we're going to need more people in this category, and we're going to need to train them up. And I don't see any reason why you can't learn these things as long with it. It's not like you need to know how to put together boilerplate before you can figure out why you should even test that thing, right? There's no reason why you need to know the exact syntax of a for loop or the memorization of some API before you think about the product for your consumers, right? I think that this is a great potential accelerant for other people to have broader perspectives on software. Okay, you can totally shoot me down later about how that's a terrible idea.
I love it. And so to think about how those soft skills that Pete mentioned, and you're thinking about the candidate or you are the candidate, I'm going to simplify them into two buckets, and they don't exist in isolation. No quality of a candidate or a human exists in isolation, so they're going to differ. At some points, you're going to have people who are maybe stronger in their soft skills. They're a very good communicator. They're a great team player. They work really well on your team. Us in consultant roles, we work a lot with our clients directly, so we communicate technical details to non-technical folks a ton. So soft skills are very important. And then on the flip side of the coin, you might have someone who's a wizard at the technical aspect and needs to be coaching up. So you kind of have to decide for your team or your company of where you're at, what you're hiring for, and if you are in maybe this bucket, do you have people on your team already that can coach up the soft skills and be able to raise all boats on your team?
So, we've already expressed our bias at Livefront for well-rounded people. And honestly, Nick and I didn't mean to do this. We're really hesitant to do any Livefront cheerleading. I don't know, we're terrible salespeople or something. But it happens to work out that Livefront has been looking for people like this forever. It doesn't matter that AI is here. We've always wanted people who are excellent communicators, people who think at a higher level, people who are a little more well-rounded. So it just like was this like wonderful, another Venn diagram, which we're not going to burden the screen with. Sorry. Whoop. But I did want to point out that we have sort of codified our engineering tenets. And if anybody does want to read what they are, I think it's it's kind of a wonderful constitution to build an engineering culture around. We invite you to share that with you guys as well. But okay, so now we know who we're looking for. That's like just the first half of the problem. Like now, how do we find them? And how do we determine that they really are what we want?
This is what it feels like. You kind of feel like you're swimming out in a sea and you're looking for that one candidate. Talking to our recruiters for this talk. Okay, you can see that. I was worried about the dark background. They've kind of estimated that our applications have gone up 5x over the past couple years. That's just our experience. If you're a larger company, maybe it's even tenfold or way up there. That could be for a myriad of reasons. Maybe just availability of engineers, new engineers entering the market, the way it's promoted. I've realized that there's reposting sites, so if we post a job, it gets reposted on other non-related sites. I didn't know those existed. And then recruiters spend time reviewing all those candidates, and are they filtering through a lot of noise in the marketplace? Are they getting a lot of underqualified candidates? There's maybe not an identity associated. You open their associated LinkedIn and there's no image. Or is it just spam? Are people being impersonated? There's a lot of things out there. We actually posted a role probably a month ago now for a front-end engineer, and we had 500 applications in 6 hours, which is a lot. In our experience, maybe it's a bunch more other places. But it is one of those things that you kind of have to work through. And how do you cut through that? And a lot of it is unfortunately asynchronous. It's a numbers game almost. Do you have things on the internet that are presence? I feel like when Facebook first came around, my parents were like super like, watch what you put on the internet. And now I'm sitting here like, put a lot of things on the internet. That's worth it. Do you have side projects out there that a recruiter could look through and be like, oh, this person's really passionate about the craft? If not, do you have a GitHub that they can like parse through and just see that you're real, you're actively working on something? At the very least, is your LinkedIn up to date? Like, do you have a nice up-to-date picture, your job description that shows what you're working on that can be relatable? Just things to not give them like yellow flags to just kind of exclude you out of that process right from the get-go. And along the side, and we've kind of talked about AI. This is about AI. Is like if you can't beat them, join them. So like, how can you use AI in your job search? Can you use it for resume building? Can you just brain dump into ChatGPT of here's what I've been doing? Can we format this? What questions do you have? Can you compare it against a job description? Those are all good things to try and do with your AI and kind of be there early. And as well for like the example of 500 applicants in 6 hours, can you use tools to alert you for job postings? You don't want to be number 499 out of that 500. You'd rather be closer to the beginning in that instance. And that's kind of just part of it. Wes was actually asked earlier about applying at Google, and it was just keep applying, keep trying. And I think that's also great advice because you never know what's going to land and how the recruiter sees it one day versus another. So it is a hard process to go through. I'd encourage everyone, if you are like in the market, to just stick with it. It's something you just kind of got to work through.
Has anybody found Waldo yet? No? Nobody? One.
Nobody found
Okay.
one?
It's actually really hard. I know where it is. I've been looking this whole time.
Yeah, he's there. When I first made this slide, I told myself I wasn't going to cheat, and I cheated. I had to look at the answer in the Reddit thread that I found this photo. But to kind of wrap this kind of thought up of Waldo, it's not really about who you know. I don't like to think about it that way. It's about like who can you meet. Can you go and network, go to meetups around the Twin Cities or wherever you're based out of if you're not from the Twin Cities? Can you get in contact with recruiters, past coworkers? This conference here today is amazing. Like this is what it's about, is being able to meet people. We would love to talk to you. As Pete has mentioned, you can tell Pete his idea was bad. You can tell me this idea is bad. Yeah, here's Waldo for anyone that needed to find him.
Okay, so once you've done that winnowing process, which is a huge one, right? Taking the fire hose and getting it down to a trickle of likely candidates. At Livefront, we put a lot of emphasis on communication. Not just because communication itself is a super important skill, but because communication is a way to relay a lot of other skills. So we do phone and video interviews to start with, and every email, every written communication. I mean, written communication software is like huge too, right? So all of those things are often really good signal. Now maybe someone is ghostwriting your emails, and that would stink, but it's not the only thing we do. Okay. And probably, I almost guarantee that's happened, by the way. So we're trying to get signal, right? And these direct conversations with people are really good signal in this huge, noisy volume that is recruiting. If we think there's a really good fit, and we think there's a really good chance that this is a candidate that would want to work with us, and we want to work with them, then we do a code challenge. Now, we're really sympathetic to time constraints, right? A lot of people have real jobs, have families, obligations. So it's a fairly modest scope, and it is compensated. And again, we only do it if we think there's a really good chance that it's going to work out. So we then receive this code challenge, and we review it as if we were going to ship it. Okay, like, we review it as if this is ours, we own it, and like we're gonna put the Livefront brand on it, and we're gonna send it to 1 million consumers. We review it very thoroughly with our highest standard. Going back to that chart, which I'm not gonna pull back up again, right? If it were AI generated, you can't get there now, right? Like, the best AI users, like, yeah, you'll get above that 70% that you kind of averaging you get, but you're not going to get to 100. And actually, if you can, we'll take it. Like, wow, you're so good. That's awesome. So part of it is like us trying to tease out, like, are they real or not? But part of it is like, that's just our standard. We also always give them back a written review. Whether we sort of accept it and take them on to the next step, or we say, this is the end of the road, we don't think it's going to work out, we always do a full review. And that's a big thing for us because they've sunk a lot of time and energy into this. That process, if you're one of those Waldos, you're exhausted, right? This is hard work to do. And they took the time to do that and put some of their effort into it. So we always try to respect that, and we want them to respect our time too. So we always give back a detailed review. And also, even if it's a no, maybe next year they come back and they've worked on the 3 things we talked about, and we get them next year. So a lot of good reasons for that, but it's something we really pride ourselves on. So once we're done with that process, we're not quite done with the whole thing though. So our next step, this is a fairly recent addition that we've been really happy with. We schedule a discussion with them where we have them talk about their code challenge. They largely drive it. It's sort of low stakes, casual, but we are going to ask a lot of questions and gently prod, maybe point out some shortcomings, maybe just suggest hypotheticals. What would happen if the user did X? Did you cover that? What would happen if this happened, if the network failed in this scenario? Why did you choose that? Why did you choose that pattern? Why did you choose that live?